And again, it's such a luxury to be able to talk about depth with this squad. And as fans watching the Canadian men during World Cup qualifiers, a lot of times out of necessity, injury and stuff, we did see John Herdman make a lot of changes. I don't think he started with the same starting 11 throughout the entire way. So now if you're a fan, you're thinking, oh, are we going to see rotation as well at the World Cup, even though group stage, you just got the 3 games. So I guess you're already shaking your head, Wheels. I'll come straight to you. 26-player roster. What is the reality, though, that we would even see a lot of rotation in this squad by Herdman?
I think you're going to see 15, 16, maybe 17 players maximum play at the World Cup. I think that's why when you're suggesting bring on this player, bring on that player, it's basically to fill out the squad for me. Like I said, you have a Tiba that can fill in at center back if need be. You're not going to have to rest players based upon the way that the games are laid out. So, look, I think he's going to lean heavily on his 14 or 15 best players. And that's what we're going to see at the World Cup. And all of these other conversations, who's in, who's out, it's intriguing. It's fun to do. I think that we all pretty much can pinpoint those 14 or 15 players that are going to play significant roles come the World Cup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think you can almost predict the starting 11 for that first game against Belgium. I think there's still probably 1 or 2 question marks just in a formation and system sense more than anything. And you plug the relevant players in depending on how you want to play. But I'm with Wheels on this one. I think it's going to be a pretty slim group. I think you can probably guess who most of those names are. And then you add on players like Junior Hoylett, Saint-Pierre, I think is playing really well right now. Yeah. You could have a role to play as substitutes. Ike Ugbo is another one there. I don't think he'll start, but players who are playing well for their clubs, playing at a good level, and could certainly impact the group. I think it's probably 12 or 13 guys who are going to take the bulk of the starting minutes.
Yeah, Andy, that's what's going to be interesting about this upcoming window. I said it a couple of months ago on the show. I think 10 of the 11 players, if fitness or injuries isn't an issue, they're in your starting 11. Then it's just a matter of if you want that extra defender in Larea, an extra midfielder, potentially a Sorio, or an extra striker in terms of Kyle Larin. That's kind of all that's to be decided for me. Just you got to pick one of those players and then plug them into the team.
Oh, Wheels, it's never that simple. Fitness and injuries are always an issue. Don't you know
exactly.
that? And that is the case already. Yeah, right out of the gate. Kyle Larin finally gets into the lineup with Bruges, makes an impact, scores a goal, but hadn't been playing. So let's just talk about Bruges teammates here. And then Tajon Buchanan dealing with an injury as well. So how does that impact the attack, Ollie, in particular? Because obviously, Wheels, you even brought up, does even Lucas Cavallini make this team? But you almost wonder out of necessity, right? If you already have certain injuries or certain players out of fitness. I'll just begin with you, though, Ollie. How does this impact Canada's attack when you're looking at Kyle Larin not really getting a lot of playing time, although not missing a beat either when he finally gets into the lineup, and speedster Tajon dealing with something?
Yeah, it's a concern. Larin obviously got his chance at the weekend and scored, so that's great. Hopefully that will lead to more opportunities, and well done to him for taking that opportunity when it's finally come. But we were certainly hoping to see more of Kyle Larin as a regular in Club Bruges' starting lineup, and I think that's probably why he went there, was the feeling that he would be, a star player in the Belgian league, and that hasn't exactly materialized yet. So that's one way you're a little bit concerned about the players' minutes and form potentially going into the tournament if that doesn't change drastically. Buchanan, I'm just waiting to see the extent of the injury, right? It doesn't sound like he's too far away. Obviously, he's geographically close to the camp, so I'm sure he'll be in attendance in some capacity, and we'll see if he's ready for any minutes or not. Tajon Buchanan, though, is a player that Canada can not really afford to lose, I don't think. When you look at, particularly in the kind of the second half of the qualifiers, there was only one player who played the right-hand side for Canada. It was Buchanan almost every single game. He barely got a rest. I don't think there is really a like-for-like replacement. You'd have to look at, doing something a bit different tactically, whether it's moving Davies over there at times. Junior Hoylett, I guess, could come in, but is a very different type of player. Buchanan is one who, if his fitness and form is in any doubt going into Qatar, that's a major, major problem for John Herdman.
Well, yeah, I think that just opens the door for Richie Larea to play a more advanced role, which begs the question, how are Canada going to line up anyways when they play better teams? Like, with all due respect, they're not playing Honduras and El Salvador anymore. Mm-hmm. They're playing Belgium. And just look at the players in Belgium and their form and what they're doing for their club sides right now. It's ridiculous. Same thing that goes for Croatia. Morocco Hakim Ziyech is coming back into their team now with the change of manager. He's stepping back into the national side. These are top teams that Canada are playing. Can you afford to play two strikers anyways? That's why Kyle Larin, for me, I think no matter what happens, he might be more suited to be playing a role coming off the bench, which sounds kind of crazy for the all-time leading goal scorer in Canadian men's national team history to be coming off the bench. But this might be what we see in the upcoming window. I'm really curious about that, because how aggressive and how much do you want to potentially leave yourself exposed at the back playing against these top sides? I think that's something that we're going to learn over these upcoming friendlies coming up.
Yeah, and also the midfield is taking a wee bit of a hit, gentlemen. Still have yet to see Jonathan Osorio back in the lineup with Toronto FC. Marc-Anthony Kaye did make his return from injury, and it's been a whirlwind for Atiba Hutchinson, already concerned at 39 years of age if the legs can keep up. But he hasn't played since June. That was actually with the national team. Has been dealing with injury, hasn't made an appearance with Besiktas. We also know there was an issue there with his deal, signed a one-year deal, but it hadn't been registered with the Turkish league yet. Because they had already hit their limit of foreign players. There's just a lot going on as well for Atiba. But Ollie, again, when you just look at what's happening there, with the midfield, what's plan B?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think there is an obvious one in central midfield. Eustáquio is going to play, and Atiba would be the one next to him. Marc-Anthony Kaye's had a tough 2022. Again, another player who I think needs to really pick up his form in these last few games here, and obviously fitness as much as anything. Osorio, we're still wondering about. Wotherspoon's got to prove his fitness. Sam Piette, look, I'm a big fan of Sam Piette and what he is as a player, and I think he's playing very, very well right now. But I think if he's in Canada's starting 11, that's probably not something that would have been plan A. Certainly not a few months ago when you look at the minutes he had in qualification. So that's a concern. What makes me a little bit more optimistic about that is that I think Atiba at this stage of his career is very cautious with his body and how he takes care of himself. And I think he will be looking, of course, he's going to be looking at Qatar as the last high moment and pinnacle of his career. So I'm hoping that there's a degree of caution being exercised there, and he'll be able to ramp himself up in time. But yeah, if he is not available in any capacity, it certainly leaves a big hole.
It's intriguing. It opens up the door for a player like Ismail Kone, highly rated. I know that Herdman loved the profile of the player when he came into camp, and know that he caught the eye of the players and the staff as well. Samuel Piette's probably the player in the best form out of all of them right now. Yeah. And he plays that little bit of a destroyer role. He's reliable in the center of the park. He could probably be it. But look, I think that Herdman's going to have to be creative here. You need Atiba in good fitness come the World Cup. And he has an issue right now, not just with Atiba getting games, and we'll see what the next few months look like. But Toronto FC not making the playoffs is a huge blow to the Canadian men's national team. We'll get into it a little bit later on the show, but their final league game is going to be October 9th. What do you do between the 9th and November, 20, whenever you start the World Cup? Like there's about 6 weeks there that you're going to have to fill. I know that Herdman has coordinated and worked with Greg Berhalter before. Look, Berhalter might have some MLS players who are out of season, haven't played. So if I'm him, I need to make sure that these players are playing inter-squad games, potentially like off-site, fixtures where they get some form and fitness. So they're going to have to be creative, because I'm with Ollie. There isn't really a plan B.
Jenna, we're going to have plenty of time here to also dissect this squad, in particular, also getting ready for these games in Austria. But before we move on, I do want to ask quickly, Wheels and Ollie, are there any updates in player negotiations, Gareth?
Oh, I wish I had better news. From what I'm told, just the two sides haven't been in discussions. The CSA, I reached out, and they told me that they've reached out to the players on multiple times, and they've been struggling to get an answer. We do know that the men's national team now has an American law firm representing them. I was hoping that after Alphonso Davies' statement about him just kind of relinquishing his World Cup monies to go to charity, that perhaps this was kind of a sign or a signal that we were ready to get moving on this. I know that some agents are they're kind of bystanders. They're in the sidelines watching this right now. I think people are just waiting. I think that it is good that there's going to be, some sort of like union, some sort of togetherness that's going to move this forward. But this needs to get done. And I know that the deal doesn't necessarily need to be signed in its full capacity by the World Cup, but the footballing nation, like our country, just needs to be talking about this team playing, getting excited about that, just without this dark cloud lingering. So, and dollars and opportunity, that's what's at stake here. Like money coming into the program for Canadian soccer, for the players, for everyone involved. And it just seems like we're in a holding pattern here. So I hope we get moving on this, but unfortunately, I haven't heard any good news, bad news, any news really from either side in quite some time.
That's the thing, is that although a deal not being done in time for Qatar doesn't necessarily give them a problem in terms of playing in Qatar, it does clog up the system around what is a massive event for the CSA, for Canadian soccer in general, in terms of bringing in revenue, doing sponsorships around it, all of these different things. Like, until you have that deal done with the players, that kind of thing is more challenging, right? And everything's just kind of jammed. So it does, I think, matter that we get this deal done before Qatar. Like Will said, there doesn't seem to be a great deal of update or massive progress. I don't think it's going to be a concern in terms of the players, playing these games and so on and so forth. In that regard, I think they want to concentrate on their preparation at this point, but we'll see, right? It's all very quiet still.
Yeah, a lot of things get held up when contracts are not done. I think it's also worth noting that the men have also employed the help of the actual firm who helped negotiate the deal in the United States as well for their soccer deal. So they have very good representation. I just feel like Canada Soccer and the men's team, there should be some good negotiations happening right now. So hopefully the doors are open on both sides there.